The orbital station Meridian's hope hung in the gravitational sweet spot between Earth and its moon, a spinning wheel of metal and composite materials that had served as neutral ground for human-alien diplomacy for the past decade. In the lower decks, where the artificial gravity generators hummed at 0.8 G to accommodate multiple species, a small cafe called the Quantum Brew served refreshments to travelers from a dozen worlds. Elsa wiped down the counter for the third time that hour, her practiced hands moving in efficient circles. The lunch rush had ended, leaving only a handful of patrons scattered across the chrome tables. She'd been working here for 2 years now, ever since her discharge from the Merchant Marine, and she'd learned to read her customers with the same precision she'd once used to read star charts. The HFY Admiral entered at 14:47 station time. Elsa noticed him immediately, not because of his rank insignia, though the 7 radiant stars on his collar marked him as high command, but because of the way he carried himself. Most HFY moved with a peculiar fluidity, their triple-jointed limbs giving them an almost dance-like gait. This one moved differently. There was something measured about him, something that reminded her of the human military officers who occasionally passed through. He was tall, even for his species, with the characteristic blue-gray skin and bifurcated facial structure that made HFY faces look like living Rorschach tests. His eyes, all 4 of them, scanned the room before he settled into a booth near the viewport, where Earth's crescent hung like a blue and white jewel against the void. Elsa grabbed a data pad and approached. "Welcome to the Quantum Brew. What can I get you?" The Admiral's primary eyes focused on her while his secondary pair continued scanning his surroundings. "Vinth tea, if you have it. Otherwise, water with a sodium-potassium supplement." His standard English was perfect, barely accented. Elsa made a note on the pad. "We have Vinth, hot or cold." "Cold, thank you." As she turned to go, the Admiral shifted in his seat, reaching up to adjust his uniform collar. The movement pulled his sleeve back slightly, revealing his forearm. Elsa froze mid-step. There, rendered in the distinctive bioluminescent ink that only showed under certain lighting conditions, was a tattoo. The station's ambient UV brought it to life, a spiral pattern that looked like a galaxy caught in the act of formation, with mathematical notations woven into the arms of the spiral. At its center was a symbol she'd seen only once before, 3 interlocking circles with a single star in the middle. Her data pad clattered to the floor. The Admiral's head snapped toward her, all 4 eyes suddenly locked on her face. Around them, the ambient noise of the cafe seemed to contract to nothing. "My alien half-brother had that tattoo," Elsa said, her voice barely above a whisper. The Admiral's expression, difficult for humans to read under the best circumstances, underwent a transformation. His secondary eyelids blinked in rapid succession, a HFY stress response. His fingers curled into his palms, another tell. "Your name," he said, and it wasn't a question or a command but something desperate between the two. "Elsa Kerrigan." The Admiral stood abruptly, his full height making him tower over her. His hands were trembling, barely visible but there. "Kerrigan, Dr. Sarah Kerrigan's daughter." The mention of her mother's name hit Elsa like a physical blow. She hadn't heard anyone speak it aloud in years, not since the memorial service after the Prometheus incident. "You knew my mother." "Knew her?" The Admiral's voice cracked in a way she didn't know HFY voices could. "I am Kevin, I was her colleague, her friend." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was barely audible. "And I am the father of your half-brother." Elsa's mind reeled. She was aware, distantly, that other patrons were starring. The young Centaurian couple 3 tables over had stopped mid-conversation, but none of that mattered. "Sit down," she managed. "Both of us just sit down." They sat across from each other in the booth, Earth hanging in the viewport beside them like a silent witness. "Tell me about Joran," Elsa said, "please." Kievan's hands folded on the table, the bioluminescent tattoo still visible. Your mother and I met at the Kepler research station 30 years ago. We were both xenobiologists studying cross-species genetic compatibility, not for reproduction, you understand, but for medical transplant purposes. The work was revolutionary, controversial. I know, Elsa said. I've read her papers, or what they released of them after she died. Kievan nodded slowly. What happened between us? It was unexpected. By both our people's standards, it was impossible. HFY and humans cannot produce offspring through natural means. Our genetic structures are incompatible, but your mother, she had a theory. She believed that with the right genetic modifications, the right enzymes and chromosomal bridges. He trailed off, his eyes distant. She was brilliant, reckless perhaps, but brilliant. She created Joran in a lab, Elsa said. It wasn't a question. With my genetic material, yes, and her own. It took 7 years of research, hundreds of failed attempts. When the embryo finally took, when it developed properly in the artificial womb, Kievan's voice broke. He was perfect, truly hybrid, human enough to breathe oxygen at Earth-standard pressure, HFY enough to metabolize radiation that would kill a baseline human. He had her eyes, Elsa. Did you know that? Brown like Terra soil. I've never seen a HFY with brown eyes before or since. Elsa felt tears tracking down her face. I only met him once. I was 6. Mom brought him to visit before the Prometheus mission. I didn't understand what he was to me. I just thought he was one of her research subjects. He was 12 then, Kievan said, already showing signs of the genetic instability that would later. He couldn't finish. The tattoo, Elsa said, redirecting. What does it mean? Kievan rolled up his sleeve fully, exposing the entire design. In the UV light, it pulsed with soft blue-green luminescence. This is the Kerrigan-Kievan spiral. Your mother named it. It's a mathematical representation of genetic integration, how 2 incompatible sets of chromosomes can be woven together if you approach it from a topological rather than linear perspective. It was the key to everything we accomplished. When Joran turned 10, he asked for this tattoo. He wanted to carry the visual proof of his own impossibility. Elsa reached across the table, her finger hovering over the design without quite touching. I have one too, different design but the same ink, same style. Look. She pushed up her own sleeve, revealing a simple double helix, human and elegant. I got it after Mom died, to remember her work. I didn't know. Her voice cracked. I didn't know Joran had the same idea. Kievan's expression softened in a way that somehow transcended species barriers. Grief, Elsa realized, looked the same everywhere. He died 2 years ago, Kievan said quietly. The genetic instability finally cascaded beyond what the treatments could manage. He was 23 standard years old. We gave him 2 decades he shouldn't have had by any natural law. Your mother gave him that. She died when I was 8, Elsa said. The Prometheus accident. They said it was a reactor failure, but the reports were sealed. I've always suspected. She was murdered, Kievan said flatly. Not officially, you understand. But there were factions on both our worlds who wanted her research buried. The idea of human HFY hybrids terrified the xenophobes. Your mother had begun talking about the next phase, not just one hybrid but the possibility of a whole generation, a bridge species. The weight of it settled over them like gravity. After her death, I took Joran off-world, Kievan continued, raised him in the neutral sectors where questions weren't asked. He grew up brilliant like her, curious about everything. He wanted to be a xenobiologist too. He wanted to continue her work. Kievan's voice grew thick. In his last weeks, when the cellular degradation accelerated, he made me promise something. What? Elsa whispered. He made me promise that if I ever encountered you, Sarah mentioned you often in her research logs, though she kept you separate from the project for your protection. If I ever found you, I should tell you the truth, all of it. He said you deserved to know you had a brother, even if you never got to really know him. Elsa couldn't speak. The tears were flowing freely now, and she didn't bother to wipe them away. Kevin reached into his uniform and withdrew a small data crystal. This contains everything. Research notes, personal logs, images, Joran's life. He wanted you to have it if I ever found you. I've been searching for 2 years, following your merchant marine routes, but you mustered out and disappeared into the civilian sector. When my fleet was assigned to the Meridian Station talks, I thought, perhaps. He pressed the crystal into her palm. It was warm from his body heat, which ran several degrees hotter than human standard. He wanted you to know something else, Kevin said. He said to tell you, you're not alone, we're the proof it's possible. Elsa closed her fingers around the crystal. What did he mean? Your mother and I created one impossible thing, Kevin said. One bridge between 2 species who had no business being able to create life together. But we did it. We proved it's possible for the barriers to fall, for the impossible to become real. Joran believed, and I believe, though it cost me my son, that this was just the beginning. That you, that I, that everyone who carries this knowledge forward has a responsibility to keep building bridges. Even when they kill us for it, Elsa said bitterly. Especially then. They sat in silence for a long moment, 2 beings from different worlds, connected by love and loss, and a woman who had dared to dream impossible things. Finally, Kevin stood. I should go. The diplomatic sessions resume in an hour. Wait, Elsa said. She didn't know what she wanted to say, only that she couldn't let this moment end so abruptly. Do you? Would you want to meet again, talk more? About Mom, about Joran, about all of it. Kevin's expression, still alien, still difficult to read fully, nonetheless conveyed something achingly human. Hope, perhaps, or the memory of it. I would like that very much, he said. I have 3 more weeks on station. I work the evening shift most days, but I have tomorrow off. Tomorrow then here. Here, Elsa agreed. Kevin nodded once, a gesture he'd clearly learned from humans. Then he turned and walked toward the exit, moving with that same measured, careful gait. Admiral, Elsa called out. He paused. Thank you for looking for me, for keeping your promise to him. It was the least I could do, Kevin said. He was my son. You are his sister. That makes you family, Elsa Kerrigan, the only family I have left. After he left, Elsa stood alone in the cafe, the data crystal clutch in her hand. Through the viewport, Earth turned slowly, beautiful and indifferent. Somewhere in the station's digital archives, her mother's sealed research files gathered virtual dust. Somewhere in the cold between stars, the particles that had once been her half-brother drifted in expanding clouds. But here, now, she had something she'd never expected to find. Connection. Proof that she came from impossible things. That in her veins flowed the legacy of a woman who'd looked at the barriers between worlds and decided they were merely problems to be solved. Elsa pulled out her personal comm and loaded the data crystal. The first file that appeared was an image. A young man with blue-gray skin and warm brown eyes, grinning at the camera, his sleeve rolled up to show his luminescent tattoo. Below it, a caption in her mother's handwriting, Joran, age 12. First day of xenobiology class. He's going to change the world. Elsa smiled through her tears. We both will, Mom, she whispered. I promise. Outside, the stars burned on, indifferent and eternal. But inside the quantum brew, something impossible had happened. A bridge had been built across the void, one conversation, one shared tattoo, one family at a time. And perhaps that, in the end, was the hardest science fiction of all. That love and connection could transcend the boundaries of species. That family could be forged in laboratories and cafe booths alike. And that the most revolutionary act in the universe was simply to see another being, no matter how alien, and recognize yourself reflected back.